Almighty push.
It's gotta be that quote. Hey, I'm Gnarly. I'm a music producer and a finger drummer from the UK, and I'm here today with ROLI to cook up a beat. I was planning on sampling something from one of my favourite animes, Naruto, and I love the soundtrack. It has one of the most epic soundtracks and the best fight scenes in any anime. I really liked one of the songs, which is Grief and Sorrow, so I'm going to pull that up and get that into Ableton. This is Grief and Sorrow from the Naruto OST. This song basically plays like in every kind of epic moment in the series. I really like the melody. I thought it would be cool to learn how to play that using ROLI Piano. We can lay that in Ableton and then chop it up inside Maschine and create a really cool flip. I've got this anime vibe piano, which you hear here, which I feel like will really suit the vibe of the track. So I'm gonna play in that melody. So now I've got the keys recorded in. I'm also going to add in a couple more layers. So I was thinking to add in some strings as well, just some epic strings in the background. So now we've got the strings in as well. I might just also add in a bit of reverb on there just to make them sound even more epic. So we're just continuing to build the loop as well. I'm just going to add in some kind of more percussive sounds. This one is using the Lotus Garden in Equator. It's kind of quite a nice. Percussive string style instrument, and we'll record in a nice layer on top of that as well. Can bring that down in the mix a bit. You notice on Ableton I've also added in a little bit of reverb with a low shelf and then EQ'd it so it's only got a high pass filter kind of going through there. I'm also using Serato Hex effects to add a bit of extra effects on the top. So without this is how it sounds. And with it, see, it just adds a little bit more colour, which is really nice. Let's go on to the bass. So just continuing to build the layers. So at the moment we've got keys, which is the melody, strings, which is I guess the harmony or the chords, Lotus Garden synth, which is adding a little bit more of a percussive melody on the top, and of course we need some bass. For the bass I'm using Serum 2, just a nice sub bass, and I'll layer that in as well. Now that we've got these layers sorted, I just wanted to, in Maschine, load in some drums sounds as well. So I've got my usual layout here, which is drums down here at the bottom, kick, snare, 2 close hats, open hat. I've got another snare here, which is kind of a ghost snare sound on pad 6, and then a tom on 5. We've got a crash on 13. One of my favourite ways to create stacks or loops for using in finger drumming is using this method of creating layers with a combination of MIDI and samples. So I've got some samples that I found earlier which I picked out, which I think would work really well with this. So I'm going to load in this sample. The first thing that you have to make sure you're doing is having warp set in Ableton. That would just make sure that the sample's in time with the project that you're working on. And then, of course, I need to make sure I set this to the correct key. So that song is actually an A minor. So I'm going to select my sample and then just pitch that down by 1 semitone because it's in A sharp and we're going to A minor. And I'm also going to chop this up because I want that initial note to just repeat. And again with that next bit, I'm going to again chop it and then duplicate that. So we've chopped up that sample so it fits in a little bit nicer with the rest of the layers that are going on. Bring it down in the mix. And then just stick a bit of EQ on there to make sure it's not clashing too much with the other stuff that's going on. So I've got this other sample as well, which I'm going to drag in here. And again, we just need to make sure that this is warped to the correct tempo. And then I'm also going to adjust the semitones to +4 because we're going from F minor to A minor. If you're ever unsure of finding the correct amount of semitones you need to adjust something, you can just count it on the keyboard. So say that's on F minor, so we're going here, and we're just going to count out how many notes I'm doing to A. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, I'm just going to use a bit of EQ just to make sure it's not clashing too much with the other stuff that's going on. I'm going to do a little bit of panning as well on the rest of the tracks just to make sure everything's kind of sitting in its own space. Move the strings left a bit and keep the rest of it central. I think there's just one more sample that I want to get in here, which is a vocal sample. I think it's like a vinyl sample, which I really like, but there's quite a lot of stuff going on in there. So there's a little trick I like to use using Maschine stem separator to just get the vocals out. It's a really great tool for just getting different layers cut out from the track. I'm also just gonna make sure that that's set to the right key. So we're going from C, 1, 2, 3, -3 to get to A. So I can hear that's in the correct key now. What I'm going to do is Command J, which will consolidate the sample. So Command J. So I'm going to go into Maschine, and in here what I can do on a new group is just drag this sample straight into Maschine. And in Maschine, if I go into the sampler and I go to edit and we scroll all the way to stems, I can hit apply, and it's basically going to create 4 separate layers and the vocals will be separate, so then I can just use the vocal from that sample. Once we have the vocal here, I'm again just going to pull this out, so I'm going to find that sample and I'm going to drop that vocal into Ableton, and we can get rid of that first sample that had all the other stuff going on in it. Now if I play that, so you can hear that fits a lot better than all the other stuff that was going on at the same time. So now we have all those layers created. So we had that keys, which was the main melody that I've sampled from Naruto. We've got strings, that Lotus Garden synth for some more percussive stuff on the top, bass, and then a few splice samples, which include guitar, some kind of like twinkly, harpy sounds. I'm not sure what you would call that, a harp, right? and a little bit of a vocal sample in there just to sit in the background to add a little bit more soul in there. What we can now do is just export that as it is. When I'm exporting stuff to put into Maschine to chop up, I like to do a few different versions. So we'll do one where it's the full loop. I might drop out some of those extra samples and percussive elements so that we have a section B that we can go to. Now that we've bounced out those samples, what I like to do is not get rid of these completely, but I'll usually just group them and then mute that group. So the samples are there if we need to go back and change anything. But now we're just going to be focusing on Maschine. So let's open up Maschine again. And we'll go back to that group which had the drums on it. And I'm just going to import those samples that I just exported from Ableton. So I'm going to drop that onto pad 9. We're going to also duplicate this group in Maschine. And now I'm going to drop in the other sample onto that group B. In Maschine, that's the sample that we just exported. And I just need to make sure my polyphony is set to 1. That means that the sample's not gonna just keep playing over itself and layer and get really loud and messy. It just means every time I re-trigger the pad, it's gonna play it once. That is probably the most important thing you can do on one of these devices when it comes to putting in samples and chopping them. So let's get chopping. So we've filled up majority of the pads here, but we've still got one missing on both those groups. And I know exactly what we need to do, which is find a good Naruto quote to put in here. One of the most iconic scenes in Naruto is pain. And I think we can have a little skip through some of the sounds in here.
Create peace, justice. You killed my master. And my sensei! Hurt my friends! Destroyed my village!
And now, this world shall know pain. Almighty push!
It's got to be that quote. So I've basically pulled it up and then used that stem splitter to get just the vocal without all of the sound effects and stuff that are going on in the background. So now it sounds like this.
And now, this world shall know pain. Almighty push!
So I'm going to import that into Maschine as well. And I'm just going to select out the exact bit that I want.
And now,
I think what would also be great is just having the piano part on its own as like a kind of intro, having that quote come in and then we'll go into the drop. So let's just export that piano part on its own. So this is why it's good to keep that group, like I said, just in case you need to go back and get anything. So we're going to go back in here, I'm going to solo the keys part. And I'm just going to export that as its own loop now. What might be cool is to find a cool crash sample to go in there so we can again create more epic kind of intros with those swells. So I'm going back into Splice, finding a crash sample. Put that into Maschine on pad 13. And I'm also going to put a perform effects on here, which will be a low pass filter. I think also it'd be great to have that vocal sample on there. And on this one, we'll just get the almighty push bit.
almighty push!
And that's going to work great as the drop.
Almighty
And I think we've got everything ready to do a finger drumming routine with this now.
This world shall know pain. Almighty puss.
I hope you enjoyed today's session. If you have any other ideas for what you think ROLI should sample, make sure you drop it in the comments. If you enjoyed me creating the beat and you want to check out some more of my work, head over to gnarly.music on Instagram or Gnarly Music Tube on YouTube. That will be linked in the description below. Thanks again, and until the next time, happy practicing.